the community of faith that we belong to, a lot of times they don't give attention to the psychological. But as it has been stated many times before in videos, we're a trichotomy, we're physical, we are psychological, and we are spiritual. And if we are not giving enough attention to all three, then one or two of the others are going to suffer in the process. So we need to be paying attention to that. We need our leaders to really help people to focus on giving as much attention to their psychological health and wellness as they are giving attention to their spiritual health and wellness and their physical health and wellness as well. What a lot of people don't realize is that we are in a time of adjustment. And as a psychologist, I am aware that any adjustment automatically comes with a level of anxiety and changes in mood. You're not going to adjust to the degree that we've had to adjust and not experience any anxiety or changes in your mood. All right.
So what I hear you saying, Dr. Key, is that for me, just paraphrasing, you're saying to some degree, we have to process that this is where we are, have an acceptance of it, and then navigate from there, because to pretend like this is not happening when it fully is happening is going to create a whole nother level of anxiety.
It's going to create a whole nother level of anxiety. And if you're wanting to keep yourself as healthy as possible in not contracting COVID-19, managing your anxiety and your mood is important, because when your anxiety goes up or there are changes in mood, it affects your immune system. Your immune system becomes suppressed when you're constantly, chronically under anxiety. If you're worried about getting something constantly every day, your immune system is not going to be able to fight off. You're not going to have the emotional reservoir to be able to fight off, the disease physiologically. So managing your anxiety, bringing it down. If you are already dealing with anxiety before this, if you're on medication, keep taking your medications for depression and anxiety. This is not the time to come off of medications that you've been taking even before this has happened. All right. So, you need to normalize some things. Don't feel like there's some deficit in your faith because you're becoming anxious. This is a time where people are dealing with adjustment in a tremendous degree. And, that leads to things like dealing with grief. There's a lot of loss. All of that.
Let's talk about the grief for a second, Dr. Key. So one thing that is unique, that is definitely difficult for me to wrap my head around at this moment is the grief process right now. We are finding, I was watching a lady, I believe earlier, I can't remember which talk show she was on, but she explained that her husband went in, he was positive for COVID, and that she had to watch her husband pass away through FaceTime. The doctors allowed the phone to be up while he was there. Her family had to watch her husband slip away through FaceTime. So we have a situation where not only is there grief on the side of the loved one from the outside who was very, very concerned about their loved one, but also the one who's in the hospital. I have seen with people who are sick, who are in hospital, who new life is breathed into them when people come around, when their family comes around, when they know their family loves them. These people are in the hospital, no loved one, no one to hold their hand. Nurses are stretched far and wide. And then when a death happens, these people, these families are forced to not be there with their loved one who's on a ventilator suffering, and then to have to basically be taken straight from there to the gravesite. No in between, no goodbye, no nothing. That is grief that to process in general when a loved one passes away, but then to have to process it in the midst of Miss Corona is just absolutely bananas. So how should one deal with this, in the midst of grief?
And the thing about grief